Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Inverted Orthodoxy Podcast. I am Blake, joined by Doug, who is back from his little vacation, and Kyle. So glad to be here with you guys.
It's good to be back. Yeah. Even if I feel not only good to be back, I feel like it's necessary to be back.
Necessary to be back. This sounds like you have an opinion about something.
We'll call that time for AER.
There's definitely some AER.
We're not.
Time for accusations, explanations, and recantations.
She was already doing it.
Oh, sorry. I was looking at you.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking at the camera.
That's all right.
We're jumping right in.
We're jumping
Doug
right
has
in.
things to say.
I do. I'm jumping right into, first of all, why am I the guy at the flat earth thing? But
Blake made a great point, and I fully agreed with it. Just your love of pushing back against consensus thought, just for the sake of being a prickler in everybody's comfort with accepting things as they are. You would totally do that just to irritate people, I think.
Yeah, that's
I do think there could be some joy in it. But I feel like Kyle, you'd be the same way.
I've publicly said too many things against that.
That's true. Okay, but the biggest thing is this. It was your answer to Chick-Fil-A, the Lord's Chicken, and how wrong you are of all of the things. Here's the deal. Go to Chick-fil-A and ask them to put mayonnaise on their sandwich.
Yep.
They won't do it.
Correct.
They will give you mayonnaise packets on the side.
Yeah.
Because they're like, no, our sandwich is too good for us to defile it ourselves.
It's the same as all the people I make fun of for putting cream in their coffee. I'm like, you don't love coffee then if you have to change it. If my wife came to me and said, I will only love you if you change, I'm not good enough for her. So it's trying to adapt something that's already perfect.
Your wife
as you
loves
can
you
love.
more than a chicken sandwich. That's a wonderful thing. My point is this. That's arrogance, to think so much of your chicken sandwich that you will not add mayonnaise to it at my request. When I'm the paying customer, there's a lot of arrogance there. God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble.
So what is God's chicken then?
I think God looks at all chicken equally. God is not a favorer of chicken sandwiches. God is not a respecter of chicken sandwiches.
That was a good answer.
I think we should have a special episode where we go get multiple chicken sandwiches and have you blind taste test them to see.
Oh, that'd be fun.
They'd be cold.
We'll like reheat them in an air fryer or something to like warm them up, but not make them soggy from a microwave. We should do that blind taste test, Doug, on chicken sandwiches to see if you'll hold up to that statement.
I feel like you're really, really putting too much, like making this too big a deal. It's a decent chicken sandwich.
I'll also admit it has worn off some of its like elegance by coming to Canada. Like it was like this cool thing. Like I know how you guys felt about Carl's Jr.
Totally, Carl's Jr.
Right?
I hardly ever go to Carl's Jr.
Totally.
anymore.
Yes, but Carl's Jr. is a burger, and burgers matter more than chicken burgers.
I am with Doug on that story.
So
I was with you, Kyle, until you made that comment. Then I was like,
Fair.
all right, I just had to get that out there.
It's fair.
all right. So typically, this is a podcast about answering questions. You send them in, the listeners and watchers of this, and we answer them. Mm-hmm. And we take you on all sorts of adventures, sometimes about chicken, but mostly on the twists and turns of our faith that we believe in as pastors. So let's jump into question number one. And we did hang on to this question for you, Doug, just because you know some stuff. So we'd like your opinion. I know you reference all sorts of podcasts, books, media, etc., and you reference them under the each podcast. But do you have a simple list of resources or books for the following categories? 1 for the new Christian, 2 for the cynical Christian, 3 for the Christian who wants to go very deep, or the intellectual Christian, and 4 your favorites of all time or your must reads.
So we're breaking this down by category?
Oh, I think we have to. Okay. And this is where I really struggle with, especially the first 3 categories, because the reasons and definitions of each of those can be so different. The intrigued outsider, what's got you intrigued? And how do we fuel that? Or what are your hesitations? And how do we help you overcome that for the cynical Christian? Like depends on where you're coming from.
Well, I think they're asking for each of the categories.
But I'm saying within each of those categories, the person who's cynical could be cynical because they have a hard time believing in the divinity of Jesus. They could also have a hard time believing because they've heard Christians have to believe in a 7-day creation. They could, and so there's cynicism.
They could be struggling with a sense of some injustice at some tragedy they've gone through
and
themselves.
So my response to which resources for their cynicism would be unique to each of their holdups. where they're coming from. If they're new again Christian, like they grew up around it and are Christian adjacent, how do you help them learn that versus brand new to it, somebody who came from a different religious country background? Like, there's a entire width of response that's different based on the situation of the person. That I would have a hard time having a specific resource blanketly for any one of those first three issues.
But hypothetically,
yes,
somebody came up to you and said, I got a friend who's a new Christian. Give me one book to recommend. What would you pick? That's all the information you get.
Blanket for everybody. It might be What If Jesus Was Serious?
Okay, that's a good choice.
Yeah, I like that. That would be good.
Because I don't know their age, their background, their experience. That would be my probably number one recommendation. Because I also don't, it might be a teenager.
I would choose How to Pray by Pete Greig.
Okay,
That'd be my first one.
Yeah.
You're a new Christian, learn how to pray. And that's a very accessible book for people who want to learn how to pray. So that's where I would say. If I had no other context, like I'm a new Christian, give me something, I would start with that. I want to get you praying. But I totally respect What If Jesus Was Serious? That's a great choice as well.
Right.
So what about you, Blake? One, that's all you have. One book.
I'd probably go with Kyle. Like, I really like What If Jesus Was Serious? Like, I think that just gives such a, not that prayer is any less important or whatever.
You don't have to be in the middle.
which is also a section on prayer in that
Take
book.
a side.
Yeah,
you
I
did
just
with the chicken
think-
sandwich.
I just think that it's such an overlooked thing in all of Christianity is Jesus and what he actually called us to.
Yeah.
And I think it gives a lot of context, anyways, definitely from a North American perspective, anyways, as to what we're actually ascribing to as Christians. So
Either that or Dallas Willard's The Divine Conspiracy.
Which that was definitely at the top of my mind. If I knew this person's like, hey, my friend who's a professor
Yes.
is interested in.
I was joking because it's not accessible.
Correct.
But absolutely would be an amazing book to get
Correct.
somebody.
have you
off onto
guys
that.
ever got someone to read Lee Strobel's Case for Christ? Like that, I was thinking more of the intrigued outsider. That's not necessarily a new Christian, but someone who's like wrestling with, is this real or whatever? Like, I just gave that to one of my son's friends last week. So,
Right.
yeah.
They're okay. Like in the whole series. I'm
Yeah.
speaking as a whole too. Like some of his takes and scientific positions have been debated with and wrestled with pretty clearly.
Probably, yeah, it's written
Some
a
of
while
his
ago now.
theology is not as widely accepted as he kind of reports on views of things. Like Case for Creator, I think leaned pretty heavily, if I remember correctly, towards like a 7-day view, assuming that that's what all Christians have to hold. And so some of those things I would go, I'd hesitate as a universal one.
Yeah.
There's some people that who I actually would find that one better for somebody who's been raised in an evangelical world who's starting to struggle, that speaks their language and helps them with some of those doubts, more than an outsider who isn't exposed to that language and thinking.
Right. Yeah.
To come in.
Totally. Yes, I'd agree with that. Yeah.
You know, an intrigued outsider, I'm going to go off the board a little bit outside the box and think either Henry Nouwen's Life of the Beloved or Henry Nouwen's The Return of the Prodigal Son. If it's an intrigued outsider, I think that both of those books are so beautifully written that it would stir your heart to want to know God.
Yeah.
It's not going to give you answers, but it's going to stir you to continue to move towards God.
Yeah.
The intrigued outsider might be James K. Smith. You are what you love.
Yeah, that's not accessible though. It's a
That
great
was-
book. I love the book.
That was accessible compared to the series that it's the dissemination of.
Yes, I'm trying to think of like very accessible. But that's a great book. That is a fantastic book. I'm not disparaging that book in any way. I just don't know if somebody they'd have to be pretty intrigued to read through the whole thing.
That's fair. Just looking at my book.
Well, I'm scanning your books as well because mine are over here behind me. But I'm not opposed to that one. It's just I know it's not the most. Like I'm trying to think of very easy to read.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that would be. All those I think are good choices.
Yeah. For the cynical Christian.
One book, easy recommend for me. You know what it is.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
When Everything's on Fire, Brian's on.
I was going to say When Everything's on Fire. That was my first thought.
If I don't know anything else, if I don't have any other context, that's probably the one that I'm given.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I have one. that I could just blanketly give to the cynical because I've struggled with.
You want more context?
Yeah, I've struggled so much with a wide array of things, even just myself, and I found so many good resources for things.
Yep. But again, this is all
good.
you have.
Yeah, but
That's all the information you
I
have.
feel like a blanket cynicism. I can't respond to that. Like, what are you cynical of? Has to be.
What if it's like you're about to die, Kyle, and like I'm like,
Well, then
my
I'm not going to hand you a
friend
book that's
needs-
400 pages.
His book is 400 pages.
My friend needs. He's a cynical Christian, and you're like, you're just gonna leave my friend hanging.
I don't know, because I've struggled with cynicism as somebody who believes, who doesn't know how to hold on to belief, because there's things I struggle with because of the Christian culture I grew up in, or things I was forced to believe. I've struggled with things as a result of even just like spirituality. Is it true at all? I've struggled with things like creation, like all of these I have wrestled with. And so it's just hard for me to blanket cynicism, because one book's entirely irrelevant to somebody struggling with one thing if it's not that. So I don't know.
Yep. I still think if I don't know anything else, that's my go-to.
I might recommend either John Walton's The Lost World of Genesis 1 or Greg Boyd's book Inspired Imperfection, to trust the Bible in a different way.
Those are both excellent
Regardless
choices.
of your cynicism, that would help you see the Bible in a healthy enough way. Maybe even Marty Solomon's but asking better questions of the Bible. Like all three of those almost just open some gates that could allow you to go on whatever journey you are. So if I have to pick one for a blanket cynicism, any one of those could help.
All right. So for the Christian who wants to go very deep, or the intellectual Christian.
Dallas Willard's Divine Conspiracy has already been said.
So I think that's two categories as well, though, because the Christian who wants to go very deep might not be somebody who's wanting to read Dallas Willard, right?
Yeah, if
He's
they want
not
to
an easy
go
read.
deep theology, they
But for the intellectual Christian who wants to go deep, definitely. That's an easy
Yes.
recommend, The Divine Conspiracy.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
I
fair.
feel like the intellectual Christian spins that question in a different way for me.
Right.
And I'm okay either way, but I just feel like we were talking about, Doug, you and I yesterday, just talking about mysticism and like being like that. Like I'd almost say, you know, if someone wants to go really deep, are we talking about like you want to explore your soul? Like there's lots of good reads on like soul care and, you know, doing something in your prayer life, like things that draw you into like a very deep relationship with God.
Yep.
Or are you looking for an intellectual like understanding? That's a different realm in my mind too, right? Yeah.
That's fair. I guess if I'm hearing intellectual Christian, somebody who's just really well thought out, really intelligent, who wants a challenging read at their level, that's where I lean Dallas Willard.
Totally.
As a professional philosopher, right? He's a challenging, thoughtful read, or James K. Smith, either one of those guys who live in that realm. For the Christian who wants to go deep, I'd recommend like N.T. Wright. Who have appreciated much, and there's a whole width of range for Wright, from books at like the Simply Jesus level to his more weighty reads but are still at the popular level, like The Day the Revolution Began, or his full academic stuff, going through stuff in the New Testament. Again, I would have some follow-up questions before a recommendation in a real-life scenario. What are you wanting to go deep on? You're struggling with the Old Testament? Let's give you these resources. So there'll still be some nuance there, but my blanket statements are that.
Yeah, for the intellectual Christian, Dallas Willard, absolutely. If you can read with it, if you can engage with it, there's nothing going to be better.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of, for the Christian who wants to go very deep, and for you had struggled with the cynical Christian. For me, this is the one where I'm like, man, what do you mean by that? Right. This is the one for me that I'm like, whew, you want to go deeper in Scripture? Okay, if you want to go deeper in Scripture, then let's talk about some of the ones you mentioned, Inspired Imperfection, or actually...
Well, if you want to go deep, go from the full Crucifixion of the Warrior God.
or Rabbi David Foreman's books.
Yep.
Which are amazing and will draw so much truth out of the Hebrew Bible, at least. If you want to go deeper in your relationship with God, I wonder, and it's not the most like it's not complicated, but it's different, which is Brother Lawrence, the practice of the presence of God. Like if that's what you want, awareness of the presence of God, might go back to that one. Understanding that because it's a collection of letters, it is formatted a little differently, and you have to look at it in that sort of way.
Right.
So I might go there. Depending on what you mean by going deep.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. I didn't consider a different application of that question. That's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, or Eugene Peterson's A Long Obedience in the Same Direction.
Yes. Also
which
awesome.
is also an awesome book. Our next book for staff.
Yeah.
All right, so just your favorites of all time. And we have done this list
We have.
before.
I remember we did this list. We asked for somebody asked us for a top 5.
Yeah.
I think we
And-
broke it down to our top 5.
No, didn't somebody asked our top 5, and we ended up doing 6.
Yeah, right,
We did
right.
an honorable mention that didn't make it.
Do you remember them?
I remember
know-
that Rabbi David Foreman, one of the Rabbi David Foreman books was on mine.
Yeah.
And When Everything's on Fire.
Yeah.
There was a Eugene Peterson book. There was a Henry Nouwen book. And I can't remember what the other two were off the top of my head.
Right. I'd have to have Patient Ferment on there. That's always on my list. Like, it's so good.
Yeah.
I would have to have. I think just I'd pick. What's the? I should remember the name if it's in my top 5. But the biography on Eugene Peterson, I can see the cover.
Burning My Bones.
Burning My Bones as an introduction to his life and his writing. Really good kind of singular pick about him. I would have a hard time not putting James K. A. Smith of some kind, either How to Inhabit Time or You Are What You Love on that list. Divine Conspiracy would be on that list. And I'm not sure what my 5th one would be.
If I had to pick a Eugene, I would do, I think I did Traveling Light
Right.
by Eugene Peterson, his book on Galatians.
Right.
That one, I love that one.
I would have to have N.T. Wright's The Day the Revolution Began, for changing what it means for what Jesus has done for us. That was really formative for me. Or something on how to understand the Bible better, like Greg Boyd's Inspired to Perfection, or something along those lines for the must reads.
Yeah.
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 I don't think we get your list, Blake.
You've got, I would agree with all of your choices.
Have you read How to Inhabit Time yet?
Not that one.
That one, the only reason why I put that one on my list and have struggle with it between it and You Are What You Love is I've been quoting it so often recently. All of a sudden, I read it like a year ago, and now it's just starting to come out of, So if you want to read a good one,
You Are What You Love was awesome.
Yeah.
I loved that book.
Yep.
But I have not read How to Inhabit Time.
Yeah.
So
I'll admit, and I'll even encourage our listeners and watchers of this podcast that regularly, I don't read nearly as much as you guys do. So if I want to read something, I just ask you guys, what have you read lately that's like top 5, or what's your favorite book you've read? Then I don't have to, waste my time reading fluff. I just read the best ones all the time. So I appreciate that. So my list isn't much different than your guys. Like it'd probably be a compilation of both of your lists, but
Which I appreciate your humility, but
Yeah.
I know you've really pushed yourself to read over the last few years. And so one
I
of those
do try
things
and
that
read.
have
Yeah.
stuck out to you that you've really enjoyed.
Well, The Patient Ferment definitely has hit my list. Sky Jathani's What If Jesus Was Serious?
Yep.
I like that. Like it's very simple, but it's profound, right?
Yeah.
We've mentioned Birchco, and I can see that on the shelf over there before. Just a different book altogether, but just very interesting. I can see Canoeing in the Mountains over there. I loved that
see if
book.
you have that one on your list.
That just that was very timely. Like I'm almost wondering as I'm looking at it, I was like, I wonder if I read that right now, whether it would have the same impact as it did when read
COVID hit
But
the
some
world.
books are like that, though, right? Like you just read the right book at the right time, and it is so meaningful.
Yeah.
I would throw a couple more that I just looked up at your bookshelf and saw The Blue Parakeet.
That one's really good.
Right.
Too.
We've mentioned
I read that one more
many
than Inspired to
times.
Perfection, actually.
I think
replaced-
that's the one I would recommend regarding scripture. The other one that I find myself thinking about a lot lately is Fill These Hearts.
That one's so good.
I loved that book.
Yeah.
And Yeah, that book was powerful.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. You guys ready to jump into our next question?
I think so. Y'all tell you, Blake, too, just because we've combined 2 questions here. We got one on September 3rd,
Okay.
and then we got one just last week that has a lot of overlap. So that's another way, I guess, to get your question to the top is unknowingly, blindly, prophetically guess what's on the list. And so we've combined the 2 so we can talk about it all at once.
Okay, cool. So I'll make sure to make that distinction because the second question comes at a different angle, I think.
Yeah.
So September 3rd, we got asked, what are your thoughts, comments, criticisms on the Alpha course, wondering if it is worthwhile? On October 25th, we got another question that said, is the Alpha course still a valid way to teach newcomers to the faith? To teach or reach. The more I study and learn who Jesus is and what the gospel is, the more uncomfortable with some teachings like substitutionary atonement and other concepts that I learned that I find hard to unlearn as I go through deconstruction. I know one component of the course is discussion, so maybe that's an opportunity, but what are your thoughts on that? I think we've all used Alpha. Have you used Alpha, Doug? I know.
I have.
Yeah.
I've used Youth Alpha. I
Yeah.
haven't watched any of the recent iterations of the adult Alpha. I know it's not branded as that, just Alpha.
Right.
I haven't watched any of the recent iterations of any Alpha.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's been a while for me. Like adult Alpha would have been back in my Grace Baptist days.
Which they've
maybe,
remade a lot of it.
maybe
all
I
of it
sat
since.
through it at Airtrade Alliance. I don't remember. And then the youth one was totally redone and done well, I thought. I don't know, but again, that's probably 10
And they've
years ago
redone the
now.
youth one since you did it.
Okay.
So I did one with our youth 2 years ago. That's
Okay.
the newer version
Yeah,
of
I was
the
gonna
youth one.
say, so-
Yeah, so it's been redone a lot. I guess I will say this to begin the conversation, that I have to recognize it for what it is, which is introductory. I heard somebody talk about, it was Pete Enns years ago, about how to try to set your kids up to not have to go through deconstruction. And he was really sympathetic of like, there's some things you just have to lay a foundation for that you later will know you'll have to deconstruct, but you can't just skip them.
Yeah, I
Like
agree
he was
with that.
talking with about specifically the Noah's Ark story. You can't teach a kid the nuance of, well, this is recorded as a global flood because that's what Noah understood and this is the ancient mind. But maybe over in China where he didn't actually know was existent, there wasn't a full flood. Like you can't go through that with a 3 or 4 year old. And so you have to teach the story at a base level to be able to mature into it as you go. And so using that example for a moment to say Alpha's aim is not for the mature Christian. It's for the introductory Christian. And as the second question there had, there's a lot of space for discussion and hold up.
I was going to say that I think is the most powerful thing anytime that I've done the Alpha course or been part of it is the discussion part.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so for me, there's only so high you can aim for an introductory thing that Alpha seems to have done, from the fruit that I've watched, done a really fantastic job. And I know a lot of people who are both involved in or heavily use it, that think the world of it, who I respect and appreciate, who are regularly using it in their churches. There are things that I disagree with that I've recorded on this podcast from myself 3 or 4 years ago. So I can't expect any one resource
I believe that.
to nail it on the first try. Fair. I can't expect any one resource to nail everything perfectly because this is a journey that we go through.
Absolutely.
And so I'd be very hesitant to have that high of an expectation on an introductory piece of material. So I would my punches will be very pulled, if I have any, on the Alpha course as a result of garnering my expectations for who it's for.
Yeah.
I'll begin the conversation that way.
Yeah, I would have a similar kind of response to you while wanting to acknowledge this person's struggle with deconstruction and the reality of the fact that the first thing we learn is, for better or worse, our default.
Yep.
Right? And then when something comes along that's different, that's more accurate, it causes a struggle because we're like, that's not the default. And we can often just reject it out of hand because that's not what I heard first.
Yep.
Or we can just really wrestle between the two of them.
Correct.
So I don't want to minimize whoever this is, their deconstruction, and the struggle that they're engaging through that. My hesitancy to aim any criticisms at Alpha is based on how incredibly powerfully it's been used by God over the last 30 years. 30 plus years. Because it would have started small before any of us ever heard of it, because it would have been operating for years in England before we ever use it. Everything that God uses is broken because God uses people, and people are broken. And everything is imperfect. And so I remember the book we all read it a few years ago, Jesus and John Wayne. That looked back, and it was a sobering, and I'm not minimizing that book. But it's very easy to look back at the past and be like, man, did they miss the boat? And not realizing we're just missing the boat in a completely new way right now. And so are there things in it that I would disagree with? 100%. That I present differently? 100%. Probably Nicky Gumbel has things that he would go, oh, I would do that differently now. But in the midst of that, God sovereignly chose to use this thing to help lots of people come to a relationship with him.
And is continuing to do so.
Absolutely.
Right?
And so that's where I'm hesitant to criticize, not because I think it's perfect, but because I go, man, God in his grace saw it as a tool sufficient enough to use. So that should carry some weight.
I've got the whole list of what the episodes are now currently in front of me. It talks about what life, the purpose of life is. Jesus, who is he? Why did Jesus die? How can I have faith? How do I pray? Why and how do I read the Bible? Who's the Holy Spirit? What does he do? How can I be filled with the Holy Spirit? How do I make the most of the rest of my life? How can I resist evil? Why and how should I tell others about God? And does God heal today? And what about the church? Like those
good questions.
That's a perfect list to have. And yes, I may emphasize penal substitutionary atonement in a much different way of seeing all those atonement theories and where its weight would fall. Be probably far different from 100% would be far different for me than it would be for how Alpha has been done historically. But I can get over that to have this conversation at an introductory level too. And again, with a space for questions and discussion. Hopefully, if the people are hesitant towards that, we can just talk about it right there, because Alpha is not as much shove it down your throat this way as much as let's talk about this through it. So even then, how they've postured themselves doesn't have to leave it as that on its own. But that's an awesome list.
Yeah. So I want to respect your deconstruction, whoever submitted this question. I will default again to When Everything's on Fire, where Brian Zahn talks about a little bit about his journey of deconstruction. That's more in From Water to Wine. I thought for a second I got those backwards. No. That'd be a totally different story. But he talks about in When Everything's on Fire, like as you wrestle through deconstruction, recognize that the people who taught you, unless you were in a very, very toxic environment or a cult, were probably teaching you as best they knew at the time.
Correct.
And recognize that.
Yep.
Even as you struggle and even as you let go of some of the things that maybe you were taught, that they were probably teaching you from a place of love.
Yeah, they probably weren't trying to trick you.
Yeah.
Yes, or to set you up for this struggle that you're currently in.
Yeah.
But the Holy Spirit continues to guide us into truth.
Yeah.
And the struggle of deconstruction is one that is often very Spirit-led as he tries to guide us into truth.
Yeah.
But like you said, you have to, if you start where you are, and there's going to be a progressive letting go until we have been guided into all truth.
Yeah. I would be very disappointed if I heard a group of people in our church who have been followers of Jesus for 30, 40 years, got together in their small group exclusively to them, all know him, and they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do Alpha. And it just blows their mind. I would be sad and frustrated. Is that who I would recommend this for? No. Right? So it's got to be contextualized to where we would say this. So what are your thoughts, criticisms? I wonder if it's still worthwhile. If that's what somebody needs, yes.
Yeah.
If you're a mature Christian and you're watching that shouldn't be as mind-blowing as it's supposed to be at the beginning. And therefore, I would hope you're onto more mature, more palatable adult food, so to speak, than what that's meant to be. And I think the Alpha organization would say the same. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Did Jesus know that he was God from the beginning? Would it have been revealed to him as he grew older, perhaps during his fasting, or would he have known as a kid?
I think that we have to define what we mean from the beginning.
Clever.
Because if we're talking from the beginning, as John uses in the beginning, yes.
Yes.
But if we're
True.
talking from the beginning as from
birth as a human.
the incarnation.
So let's go with that, because I think that's how I
I know, I'm just being a little facetious. That was me just, what'd you say? I like
being
to...
difficult and prickly about,
Prickly about things, yes.
challenging common consensus. Yes.
Yeah, that was just me being a bit of a jerk. So how you answer this question really, I think, shows where you lean in the idea of the hypostatic union. Mm-hmm. Jesus being fully human and fully God at the same time. And that is so impossible to grasp that everybody falls to one side or the other as, yeah, but he was more this.
Right.
Without even saying it, right? Mm-hmm. How we picture Jesus.
Absolutely.
Whether we picture Jesus the man, the human, the incarnational person, then we'd say, well, yeah, of course he grew in his understanding. He wasn't like... is it Silent Night? The Christmas Carol where it says, "Little Lord Jesus,
crying.
no crying you make."
Yes.
No, Jesus was a baby.
Yeah.
Babies cry. Like maybe not in the moment that you're picturing in that song,
Yeah.
but if you think that Jesus was like came out of Mary and was like, "I have arrived. Hello, mother. I am God." Like you fall on the side of Jesus as God more than man. If you fall on the side of Jesus as man more than God, then you would definitely see, this is something he grew into. And I think Luke refers to it. He talks about him growing in grace. Maybe it's John, growing in grace and truth.
And Luke has that he grew in favor with both God and man.
Yes.
And doesn't Hebrews say that he grows in obedience, right? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think how you answer this question will show which way you lean. So having said that, Kyle, which way do you lean?
Not that I try to lean this way. I think it's.
I'm being again facetious. I think you can hold to fully God and fully man.
Totally, to the best of your abilities. We're human. Yep. We can't comprehend this. I think the world I grew up in was so focused on the divine side that I did not get a real understanding of the human side. And so as I've matured and grown, I probably have gravitated slightly more to that side of the pendulum to recognize that my own bias. First reading Leonard Sweet's Jesus, a Theography, and emphasizing the human life of Jesus was hugely impactful. I did a course with Randy, walking in Christ's footsteps or something along those lines that he did for young youth pastors years ago, and walked through that, and then listened to Bema and kind of Marty Solomon's. I would lean towards he continuously had an awareness of his identity and grew in deeper understanding of that picture is how I'd try to sum it up. And so even throughout his ministry, I'd lean on Marty for some of this, he comes into greater awareness of the width of his ministry, of at first being called to the Jews, and then in that encounter with the Syrophoenician woman, like this is to the whole world. I really appreciated Marty's take on that one. Have you got to that episode? Yeah. So that like him continuing to understand God's call for him also backs up what Paul was saying, and what Jesus identified about himself is he was continuing to learn, and the Hebrews one, growing in obedience, all that of I only do what I see the Father doing in Jesus' direct words. Then he didn't know ahead, and so he was growing into that over time, going to the Luke one. So I think that he continuously would have had, and we see this early in that one little picture in Luke we get of him sitting at the temple of doing his Father's will and understanding that, had some kind of awareness, but to the capacity a 12-year-old could.
Correct.
That he could only grow in as he understood his call, his identity, his messiahship, all those things more and more in an unfolding way over the course of his life.
So this is such an interesting question to me, because I think that when you are thinking about Jesus, we picture him through our lens.
Yep.
Our lens is as sinners.
Yep.
Our lens is as people who not only have sinned and have a sinful nature, but also who have responded and have found ourselves broken because of other people's sin. And so you come to these moments in the Christian life where you have this aha moment where the Spirit reveals something to you and you see it for the first time. And maybe you've heard it 1,000 times before, but you see it in a way that you never saw it before. Like, I get this. And I think if this question is asking, like, did Jesus have an aha moment where he, like, all of a sudden was like, wait, I'm God.
Yeah.
And I think we're putting our paradigm that is shaped by sinfulness and brokenness onto him.
Yeah.
And so I think and again, this is all conjecture. We don't know. When we get to heaven, we can ask him. But I would think that being fully perfect when he encountered sin, even as a child, somehow he would have been able to not be broken by it in the same way that we are. Mm-hmm. That he would have not had this aha moment one day that would have led into, holy smoke, I'm God.
Yeah.
But he would have just always known. How would we be different had we never encountered sin? Our identity as image bearers of God, our identity as children of God, our identity as people loved by God, would have been settled in our soul from conception. Like we would have just constantly grown.
Yep.
There never would have been a point where we would have felt other than that.
Yeah.
And so Jesus would not have gone through, not that he didn't experience everything we experience. I'm not saying that. But he would have been fundamentally different by the fact he was also fully God.
Yeah.
I love as you guys are speaking. I just think throughout Scripture, I believe, and I think you guys would agree, like God accommodates humanity so much.
Yeah.
And I think like there's just an ability for God to enter our world as human and then give each of us the ability to identify with that as we need, right? Like there is times in our Christian faith where we're going to need to believe that Jesus is God. Like that is going to speak to us just so incredibly that Jesus would come to earth and be God in our midst, right? Like that's huge. But there's other times where I need to know that Jesus was human, because if he's just God, then I'm a hopeless sinner and I have no hope at all.
Totally.
But if Jesus could follow, with his Father, like do as his Father's done, if he could listen to the Holy Spirit, if he could, avoid temptation, if he could go through the perils of life, then, that draws me in as like, okay, Jesus did relate to me, right? Yeah. And I think all that just fits so beautifully within that I'm like, I don't know that the answer needs to be answered so definitively,
right?
Other than just in a moment, there's going to be times where you need one or the other or both, right? Yeah. And I just think our God is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Cool.
And I, in saying that has been my experience.
Yep.
I was definitely taught he was God. There's definitely moments of my childhood and teens where I'm just like, well, of course he wouldn't sin. He's God, right?
Yeah.
But then as an adult going, hang on, like I need that understanding that he is human, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Totally.
Well, even our struggle with praying for people and seeing Jesus stories of healing, we're like, there's almost this thought, well, of course he could heal. He was God.
Totally.
Right?
Yes.
He cheated because he was God.
Yeah.
Right? But he says to his disciples, even greater things you will do.
Yeah.
And if you look in Acts, they do greater things. Not greater in that, like more stupendous, because how can you do something more stupendous than raising a dead person?
Yeah.
But greater in number, because one of the key things that I believe is Jesus didn't do anything that he did through his divinity, but through his humanity, walking in the strength of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, that was an aha moment for me dealing with healing and just thinking of like my theology and my thoughts, experiences through healing was understanding like the Philippians side where Jesus emptied himself and then going, okay, this is a man following God. Therefore, when God calls me to pray for someone to be healed or, that realm, then I can enter into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Next question then. Is Jesus still part human now? Is that not his permanent state now, or can you shake something like that off? And what does this mean?
A really good question. Historically, Christian theology has defined this as, yes, Jesus is permanently in the state of his incarnation. That he both ascended and left earth in a human body, and all the pictures in the New Testament of his return are within a physical body too. And so he remains in that space and will even into eternity, into the new heavens and the new earth with us and amongst us, that he has become, this hypostatic union is ongoing. And even though we use Paul's language of for a little while he became lower than the angels, that is not referencing his human body having been a temporary thing, but instead in his knowledge and his subjection to humanity fully for that time to fulfill his role as Messiah, to accomplish what he did on the cross, to then ascend to heaven, to resume it and to take that seat at the right hand of the Father. He is then forever in that state amongst us and with us, and we are with him, which is the beautiful part of the hypostatic union, that all of humanity is drawn into Christ through that. And so he is forever, according to traditional Christian theology, in that state.
The only thing I would say to add to that is he's still fully human, not part human.
Yep.
So the question is Jesus still part human now? Mm-hmm. But this, again, is the mystery of the hypostatic union.
Yep.
He is still fully, completely human and fully, completely divine in a glorified, resurrected body.
Yep.
That is somehow different.
He's more fully human than we are.
Yeah, than what we have.
Yeah.
I love this question because it forces us to have to deal with what the Bible actually says and what theology has spoken of, like, reading or thinking of like what people have wrestled with in the past.
Yep.
Because I think just for myself, it would be easier for me to be like, well, he's God. So obviously, as soon as he went up into heaven,
ditch these little rags.
He's like,
he shook it off, as Taylor Swift would say.
He got rid of it because why would anybody, God especially, want to be human, right? Like he's God.
Yep.
So that would be where I would easily allow my mind to go.
Yep.
But then reading scripture and like some of the things you already quoted, Kyle and Doug, you said, goes, well, hang on. No, that lines up more with what we're told, like what our God reveals to us, right? So, it's just an interesting question.
And there were,
Go ahead.
There were early heresies now, theologies at the time, that tried to get around this question. Mm-hmm. From Jesus was actually never human,
right?
But just here depicted like kind of like we would use the word hologram. Obviously, didn't have that language in early first century to talk about. And all sorts of different ways, but the church...
To his divinity descended on him at his baptism.
and
on the other side.
Came onto a human body that was broken and then left after. And
right,
so all these pieces have been wrestled with. And so to stand in the stream with Christian theology is to hold to that belief. And like I said, there's a real importance of the value that speaks to humanity at the cost of what Christ has done, and the beautiful picture of the infinite is now forever bonded with the finite, and our creation is benefiting from that result. And Paul's language from this week in 1 Corinthians 13 of when the perfect comes, like the perfection of humanity has already been achieved, and he will return to bring that to all of creation. There's these beautiful pictures that come out of that theology of Jesus forever being bound to the human condition with his divinity. That just more than just some complex question about Jesus' existence has something to say about our humanity and our state that is and will be, that are really important out of that theology once we realize that binding is forever.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we sometimes think that Jesus was just like slumming it for 33 years.
Yeah.
Right. And not the true cost of what he did in embracing his humanity. When I was a kid, I read a novel series. It was like fantasy. Yeah. And I don't remember much about the whole thing, but I remember the end of the last book being this poignant moment where all of these different people who've come together over the course of, I don't want to say 7 books or something, they've reached this point, everything's done. The majority of them are going now to this other land where they will live forever. Yeah. And the one person who's the main character doesn't go, but stays knowing it means he will die. Because the land that they're all leaving needs a king.
Right.
And he stayed. And I remember as a kid reading that being like, no, like getting worked up because you're like invested in these characters, right? And just being like, what are you doing? Like, but the sacrifice, the cost of that love and being able to get it from journeying with these characters in this story.
Yeah.
And to think about Christ doing that,
Yeah.
it speaks so powerfully to the love of God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's huge. Like I just think of communion, which we do every week, you
Yeah.
know, and thinking, you know, sometimes we ask people to reflect on the cost. And I think for most of us, that simple phrase simply means just, well, he was human and he got crucified. And we've even, you know, I'm sure you've been in sermons where they talk about the crucifixion and all the terrible and brutal ways. You know, there's the Passion of the Christ movie that we can watch and see the brutality of that and go, yes, there's obviously a cost to that. But then to add the dimension of the weight of taking on the sin of the world, and most of us would be like, probably like, oh yeah, okay, that's a higher cost too, right? And we might get around that at communion. But then to go, and now Jesus is bound to this earth forever. There's a cost to that, but also, Kyle, I love the way that you have just portrayed that in the last little bit of just saying the beauty of him, like redeeming this world through that he's now part of this, right?
Yeah.
There's just way more there than I think we simply usually think about when we think about, you know, communion, or we think about the cost of Christ, or we think about Jesus' humanity. Yeah.
But John's words of, and the word became flesh and dwelt among us, like that, his presence and his connection to us now is so important for those who suffer, especially, and every time we face pain now. Like he still gets, the perfection of Jesus' body is still marked with the scars of his crucifixion here too. Like there's something deep to think about there, that he still bears that. Even so, again, we've sometimes minimized it to 33 years. I've seen terrible jokes of like, well, Jesus didn't die for you; he gave up his weekend for you because he resurrected in 3 days. Like, I get the humor side of that.
Right.
There's something so much deeper. Like the infinite has taken on the finite and bound himself to us forever. And like I said, still bears the scars. That is the better word to take that Hebrews language for us today.
Yep.
That as we suffer, as we endure pain, as we go through these things, like he is here with us, even though we don't fully get that in this moment, and forever entwined himself with creation. Like that's the encouraging word when we lose hope. The deep theology around the forever incarnation is so important for us as we suffer. Yeah.
All right. Next question.
We got 10 minutes left. We got time for this one?
No, we don't.
Okay. Just with Keelan's warning. Call it a short podcast then, 50 minutes?
Yeah, I think we could probably end because the other one is, or the next one after that is also good.
I'm looking, there's a few lengthy ones with it.
Let's go 590.
590?
Let's go 590.
Okay.
We can do 590 in 10 minutes.
All right, deal. 590. This one came in on October 1st.
This one's for you, Blake.
All right.
Let me read it. Since it's,
Really directed
I
at
thought
Blake.
I should direct my teleportation question to the expert, so I'm asking you guys. I know how close teleportation is to your hearts. If we add Star Trek technology to teleport people, would it be ethical? If you're taking apart someone's matter, isn't that murder even if you're going to rebuild that person somewhere else? You have to kill that person every time to duplicate, don't you?
I've never thought that deeply about teleportation.
Maybe a chariot of fire isn't so bad anymore, is it, Mr. Teleportation Expert? This is just taking the same material with it.
I actually read an article on teleportation a number of years ago and how science understands the theory of it. It talked about where atoms, the article talked about other things like, and how atoms can be paired and twinned. I forget the right word is, forgive me. But you can have two atoms that you somehow connect, and then you can separate them by thousands of miles, and what you do to one happens to the other. And it leads to this whole idea of teleportation. And they were talking about how we understand how it could work, absolutely, that we could theoretically build these devices. And you could walk into this teleportation device, and that's actually what happened. Every fiber of your being is destroyed, and then a completely new version of you emerges. And they asked the scientist, like, is this possible? He said, absolutely is possible. No, I would never go in it. Which is how the article ended, which I really like. So
Okay.
the person who's asking this question is right on, according to the little bit of reading I did once, just out of curiosity when I saw the article, that talked about you do when you teleport in Star Trek. They're literally destroying the person and then recreating them somewhere else.
And that's where I would have some real, that I think is where the ethical hang up goes, because to talk for a moment how this is positive on a conversation, I've heard Christians many times be opposed to being, why am I blanking the word right now? Their bodies burned.
Cloning?
No,
Oh,
their
martyrs.
No, their bodies burn
cremation.
after like, it's a cremation. There you go.
Cremation.
Yeah.
Cremation, because, well, I'm going to destroy my body.
Yep.
How am I going to be resurrected?
Yep.
Well, no, we believe in a God who will be able to give you new life and a new body and your whole self from the material of the world in which he created, even if your body's no longer there. Like, we believe that God can do that. So the end result is very comparable if we're going to have new bodies for what God is doing, recreating the new version of you, the fullest version of you alive again in eternity. But that was a result of the brokenness of what started the needing for a rebuild was as a result of the brokenness of creation, not the human hand doing it. And so it's the start of that of where I would have the ethical issue of, does man get the power to take apart a human to be able to recreate them? God seems to be able to do the recreating part. Do we get to do the taking apart piece for that end to take place? And that's where I would have the ethical issue.
Well, that's where you run into the ethical issues around cloning.
Correct.
And the questions around cloning as well, right? Which is probably closer to us than teleportation, to be honest.
Yeah.
And more pressing. And those are not easy questions to answer. Absolutely. There are some... But if you are... Sorry to interrupt, but if you are totally just believing the physical nature of people, you don't believe that people have a soul, there's nothing spiritual, a materialist, then you wouldn't have any issues with it.
Yeah.
But I think the reality is that almost every person would struggle, even if they watch somebody else go through it, would struggle with going into it themselves.
Yep.
Was that, so different question, but you mentioned cloning. Is that what shut down the whole cloning thing? Like they had Dorothy the Lamb or whatever it was. That's a long time ago.
That was around the turn of the millennium, I believe.
Yeah, like that's 20 some years ago. Do you even know
hearing
that?
that in school.
Oh, yeah, like that's what I was thinking. Like I was
Such a babe.
I was a young adult. Like I remember I was working in
I
a
think there were a
warehouse
lot of
at that
health
time.
complications, if I remember, even though they were able to successfully do it.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, there were a lot of health complications that they found. But then there was obviously the ethical
Yeah,
pushback.
the ethical thing.
But I believe there were just things they could not get right in the cloning process
Okay.
that then left health complications. Don't quote me on that, though.
Yeah, because I was
been-
just like, someone mentioned it the other day, and I was like, I have not heard anything about cloning, and like it was such a big thing, and then it just disappeared. Yeah.
Just because it's not a public conversation doesn't mean I wouldn't bet money. It's
true.
definitely happening behind the scenes.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
just got
Yeah.
sick of the public pushback.
Yeah, I was just saying it hasn't been in the public. Yes,
Correct.
Yes.
There have been movies that have talked about cloning and the ethical issues around it that I
You
found
and I
very
like,
interesting.
was it AI?
AI was great. But that was less cloning and more AI.
Yeah.
But there was a movie, The Island, Ewan McGregor.
Okay.
That was just a dumb action movie, but I remember like appreciating going, man, this is really raising some serious ethical questions.
Yeah.
But the AI is more, what obligation do we have to an entity that we create
Yeah.
that has autonomy,
Yeah.
that is fully thinking and feeling. While I was away last week in Ontario, I read a book, The Kraken Project, by either Douglas Preston or Lincoln Child, one of the two. And it's about an AI that goes rogue and fully autonomous. And it's like, man, this is posing some serious, interesting questions along the same thing.
Yep.
Well, that's back to Frankenstein, right? Like that's
Which I want to go see that new movie so bad. Looks so good. The book was phenomenal. We did it as a book club 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, I remember.
I never read it. I just obviously saw Frankenstein. Again, I'm using air quotes for the audio listeners because Frankenstein is not the monster.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. The monster's the
wrecked it.
human. It's so good. So I want to go see that movie.
I did that book because you guys were doing it for book club, and I was like, oh man, that's so awesome. Like, and I remember all the fun, movies and things that have been done.
Yeah.
The book was nothing like any of the movies.
No.
It was so different.
it was
like,
so
it was
good.
shockingly different.
Yeah.
Yes, but everybody thinks Frankenstein is the monster.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
But it's same
it's
ethical
it's the
question.
same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But these are questions that there are no easy answers to.
So yes or no in teleportation. Should we do it? If it was the Star Trek style technology?
Would I go in that thing?
Should we do it? If you were in control of the moral decisions of the world, do you think we should be doing it?
You don't think, see, here's where I get into just like people's minds. And I go, somebody, Doug, you're a thinker. You're like, I'm not getting in that thing. The rest of us as sheep are like, it's going to speed up my time. I can get to work without having to drive. I'm in. Like, people would line up to get in that thing.
Let's start out. You guys are we're the moral decision makers of the world of this technology. We're allowed to either let it go through to creation or not. Are you yes or no?
So here's the unknown that I would want to somehow try to discern the answer. What happens to your soul?
Yeah.
But
if you don't know,
but that's the question that I had when this whole conversation around cloning happened. Because unlike you, I wasn't in school. I'm old, and I remember like just talking to somebody like, what happens if you cloned a human being?
Yeah.
Right.
Does God in His grace bestow upon that person a soul?
Right.
Right?
I remember this discussion.
And there's so much in that. What happens? So I believe we have a soul, and that is an intangible part of us.
Right.
That is part of the character of who we are. So whether it's cloning, whether it's teleportation, the question remains the same. If you destroy every atom of that person, or you clone that person and they reappear somewhere else, if their soul has been gone, is there a change in personality?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that I think would determine the ethical, the answer to the ethical debate. And I don't know how you get the answer to that
other than
before sending some people through.
So yeah, we've tried frogs, we've sent turtles, we've sent tigers through. It all seems to work with material beings.
Safe.
You just look at the Bible. The Bible answers everything.
And what does it say?
Yeah?
I don't know. I don't remember the chapter of teleportation.
No, but this to me is what the answer to that question is.
I'm pretty sure it's there.
Because if somebody goes through and they emerge and you've killed them, and now their soul is in heaven with Jesus, and they're a soulless creature. When I think of a soulless creature, I think of somebody without a conscience.
Yeah.
Like if somebody emerges from teleportation and turns into a psychopath,
that's not good.
I think there's something.
So we've figured out that materially can happen, and you get to say yes or no to the first human trial, and it's a complete unknown.
Then he's a no.
I don't know the answer to that question right now because we would have to have some time to think through the implications of that question.
Okay.
Based on the answer of that question, I think determines whether or not you can do it.
With the information I have, I'd be an ethical no.
I would lean towards a no,
Yeah.
but I would also, like right now I would lean towards no because I don't know.
Right.
But that's the why I would lean towards a no. So if somebody could prove the opposite to me, then maybe my opinion would change.
Here's my... We have 3 minutes. Blake, what's your take? Yes or no?
Well, I didn't know all this stuff, but now that I do, I'm probably a no. Although if we go back to like Elijah and a chariot of fire shows up, I'm getting in.
There you go. I think my hesitation, if we have the ability to rebuild a person cell by cell in another location, we also have the ability to do gene editing and all that kind of stuff that goes with it, because we have it down to the recreation of a human on a cellular level. That's just right there. We've already got the technology to do one. We have to have the other technology to do the other. I'd have to be a no for that whole reason too, because the whole ethical conversation there that technology would need to make it happen.
All right.
I think the deeper issue is probably that it would never get used for altruistic ends, right?
Yeah.
If you had that ability to teleport, or if you had that ability to do something, you would not do good with it. Inevitably, humans would do something terrible with it.
So on that big note, I think we don't have any more time.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, everybody, on this episode of the Inverted Orthodoxy Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the journey and thought of some thought-provoking things, even if it was around teleportation. Don't forget to submit your questions. Check us out on invertedorthodoxy.com and give us a rate and a review wherever you listen or watch this podcast. See you all later.
See you guys.